Hi, everyone. This is CricketSong with Inner Wisdom, and you're watching another episode of Wyrds, Witches, Witchcraft. Today, you're watching a pre-recorded show, an episode. Our live showings will be available in only, I think it's a few weeks from now when you're watching this, maybe a month from when you're watching this. We will be broadcasting live Friday evenings at 8:30 Pacific Standard Time. So check your time zones accordingly if you're watching on the East Coast or elsewhere in the world. Today, unfortunately, Obsidian Fire will not be joining me, but I have a returning guest, Aaron Lozano. I can never get
Yes,
that.
you're
What
right.
is up, even with a new season? Say hello, Aaron.
Hi, everyone. Hello.
I don't know why I stumble. I want to say, I don't even know what I want to say anymore. I don't even know. But we're doing, Obsidian and I are going to be doing a series called The Craft of. The Craft of Tarot is what we're going to be discussing tonight, this afternoon, this morning, whatever time it
Yeah.
is. Because it's early morning when we're recording it, but this is being published in the evening. So we're going to talk about tarot, but in the future, you're going to be seeing episodes about the craft of spell writing, the craft of meditation, all different kinds of things. And what we're looking to do is talk about the witch and the role of our craft and these specific concepts or practices or tools. So Aaron and I are going to talk about tarot today, right?
Wonderful.
Yeah, because Aaron is a tarot reader, among other things,
Yeah.
which
Yes.
and other stuff. If you're not familiar with him, I do urge you to go back to watch some of the episodes of Wine, Witches, and Witchcraft because we had him on quite frequently, and we'll be having him on again in the future. Yay. All
Yay.
right.
Thank you.
So let's talk about you personally and
Okay.
the role of tarot in your craft as a witch. What sort of role does tarot play for you or have for you?
Um, for tarot as a witch, I would say, I mean, it plays a big role in my life because I'm always going to it for guidance. I'm always going to it to connect to the spirits. I'm always going to it to seek answers to how I'm doing during the week. So when I write my blog, most of the time that blog is related to me, but for some reason it also relates to everybody else. And so tarot plays a big role in my life because that's my form of connection to spirit, to God, to goddess, to Lord and Lady. So that's where tarot lies within my life.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think that and I don't know about, I'm sure for you, but I'm not speaking for you, right? As
Yeah.
witch, where I'm always witch, whether I'm doing stereotypical witchy things or whether I'm living my life, I'm witch. And tarot, even if I'm not reading for others, it always has a role. It shows up even when I at least expect it, I mean, I don't know about you, but like I am paying attention to, oh, on that show they showed tarot cards, what's going on with that kind of thing. It's always like there, just like the
Yeah.
role of being witches there too.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times people are either good with tarot or they're not good with tarot. And it's the same thing with any craft, like mediumship, psychic, anything. You're either going to be drawn to it or you're not going to be drawn to it. And that's okay. Maybe you just like oracle cards, and that's perfectly fine. You're going to dive into that. But I think tarot has like a calling. You have to learn the cards, you have to see it in your life every day. You have to, it, eventually it'll take form outside of the cards, and you'll be able to relate the situations that you have to the tarot.
I agree. I agree. And like you were saying, even if someone is interested in Oracle or is drawn to Oracle as opposed to tarot, I mean, when we're talking about cards like that in this sort of topic in this way, you can almost interchange tarot with oracle when we're
Yeah.
talking about it in the role of the witch.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So divination, you use tarot for divination, you said, right?
Yes, and that's my main form of that I use. Sometimes I'll use crystals, sometimes I'll use oracle cards, but I'm always drawn back to tarot no matter what.
Why
That's
do you
just
think
what
that,
I use.
other than we just said that, tarot, there's a calling, but can you break that down for you when you look at yourself and you look at the cards? Can you see why you're drawn to the tarot more, or there's that connection for you?
I I don't, in all honesty, I think I'm crazy, but still. I really feel like the tarot cards talk to me. Like they're my friends that I go to seek. Hey, I'm gonna bounce something off of you. Can you give me some, insight to what's going on? I think they speak to me more than divinate than oracle cards. I think they speak to me more than Lenormand. I think Lenormand's just a straight shoot to the answer. Like, I want to know about love. What's gonna happen? Lenormand's like, this is gonna happen. Have a nice day. Whereas tarot is more of your best friend telling you, well, girl, listen, you're going down this path. And I just want to let you know that if you do that, you have to pay these consequences. Are you ready for that? And so that's how I feel tarot is like an old friend.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm really, this really interests me because I think there's something, and this could just be personal bias, but I think there's something about the presentation of tarot, the energy built up behind that's built up behind its reputation,
Mm-hmm.
that it's that energy and the symbolism that
Mm-hmm.
has been, carried through the cards, even if they're not necessarily rider weight based. I personally have more of a draw to the rider weight based tarot. How about
Yes,
you?
me too. Me
Okay.
too.
So maybe it's that, maybe it's in that symbolism that makes that bond different than with oracle,
Yes.
because oracle cards can be anything and everything, and everyone can make your own deck. I think there's something in the energy, in the voices, in the personality of the tarot and the witch. I'm going to just make that big leap. It may not be true for all witches,
Yeah.
but I know for this witch it is. There's something in that, the chalice, the cup, the pentacle,
Yes.
the coin, the wand. There's just our tools, our traditional witches tools are represented in those cards. It's
Yeah.
almost like this well, it is this energetic, this familiar um bond there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I
Yeah.
need to write a blog about that. I think there's
Yeah.
I'm gonna, because it's like got my juices going with there. So I
Yeah.
use them for divination, obviously, too. Do you ever do divination either as part of a spell, or prior to spell working, or a ritual, or anything that you might be doing as witch in your practice?
It's been a while since I like writing spells,
Hmm.
but I rarely do them because of the way that I think and because of the energy that I put out. But I think that when I'm thinking about, I think I want to manifest this in my life, I will go to tarot first to see, do I really need it? Is this what I really want? Is this what I really desire? And the tarot will tell you, well, you may get what you want, but it's not going to turn out the way you want it to be. So are you ready for that to, be in your life? Because, you don't want to be complaining after you get what you want and say, well, this isn't how I thought it was going to be. Well, of course not. That's what tarot can help you decide on like this could be the possible outcome, you know?
Right.
Um, and I think with tarot, it's going to give you the truth. It's going to tell you, you're going to get the Five of Swords sometimes. You're going to get the Three of Swords sometimes. You're going to get the Death card. You're going to get, what else is a
The
card that some
tower.
people, the Tower. And it's like, sorry, boo, but those are your lessons that, that you have to work through in order to get to your goal. and people don't want to see it sometimes, and that's why people don't go with tarot, because they don't even deal with their own crap in their life. So how are they going to be able to deal with it on a spiritual level?
Right, right. I agree. And ideally, as witch, we're prepared and we're ready to face those difficult things. We're know thyself, to know. Ideally, we're prepared or want to know and don't want to go into things blindly. I don't know about you, but I like seeing and the
Yes.
choices or the possibilities. I like that, having as much information as I can before I make a decision, especially if it's dealing with my life and what I want to manifest. And if tarot is suggesting that, hey, you might want to take a step back and rethink this, or
Mm-hmm.
look at this, or hey, this is around the corner. If you still want it, be prepared that you're going to go through this. And if it's something you still want to get, just, here's some, warning, so that I can
Yeah.
then, adjust. Well, maybe I might not just rush in. Maybe I'll take this slowly.
Yeah, and I think a lot of books that are out there now, the new witches, the new ones that are coming out with their books are really leaning towards that. Like Maya says that she's like, you really need to think like, do I need to do this spell or not? And tarot would be a good a yes or a no answer to that,
Mm,
because you're putting an energy out there, you're attaching it to yourself, because in all honesty, when you do a spell, part of you goes with that. It's not going to be
mhm,
like, I'm releasing it, have a nice day. You're still contemplating and manifesting it as it's out there, and you're still connected in some way with it. So by you putting out a spell in haste without thinking about it, it's gonna reflect on you as well. So
I agree. I agree. Yeah. Yeah. So do you use the tarot, the cards for spirit communication?
Um, I used to in the beginning, when I first started out on mediumship, I would use it just to see what I could get. And now that I'm developing the mediumship side of things, I don't use the tarot for it as much. If they come through doing a reading during a reading with tarot, I'll usually try to separate the two, because I'd rather hone in on the mediumship skills and then keep the tarot separate at this time, only for my learning purposes. I think
Right.
eventually later on, maybe I'll combine the two and it'll flow better. But for right now, I don't use it for mediumship
Yeah, I
purposes.
do. I use it. And
Yeah.
I think it's for me only.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to, but I, I, I like seeing the card and knowing that I didn't go through and choose the card. And I'm saying that that's what that is, just for me.
Yes.
Because I always think to myself, oh, this is just me projecting what I think this person, I know there's someone here, I can feel their presence. I'm just going to give it words, you but
Yes.
that's why I use it personally for spirit communication. I find comfort in knowing myself that I'm not putting words in the entity's mouth,
Yes.
kind of, you know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah.
I use it in that way. So journeying, how, if you use it for journeying, what does that look like if you do it?
Geez, I use it as far as journey goes with the witch. You're gonna see a certain amount of cards that come up all the time. You're gonna see, you'll see the cards that are gonna be in your environment. Like mine is always death, the tower, and the devil. No matter what, if change is happening, death, tower, and the devil come up all the time, and it's every year. It's always during the time that things are changing. You'll see those patterns, and I think that's for me is journeying. Or you could go the traditional way, which is from the Fool to the world, and you journey your way through it, and you bounce back and forth. But I think by pulling cards every day, or by doing weekly readings for yourself, or just as a whole, you're going to see your patterns happen, and that's when you document those patterns so that you can say, oh, it's about October, and usually around this time the devil shows up, the devil card shows up, so you can prepare yourself for that next level of your path. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? You just inspired me. I think I'm going to, again, on a blog. Aaron has a blog. If you're on my
Yes.
Facebook page, I believe I share his readings every week. At least I try to. If I missed
Yeah,
it, it's
thank you so much
bad
for that.
on me. But you
No,
should check them out because I read them too. And thinking about that, I was just thinking I should do some sort of, weekly and share it with everyone so that you can see sort of the transitions that happen, because I take note of them too.
hmm
And documenting it is very helpful, journaling your journey, to see what's going on. Because if I look back, I can see when my transition started to occur,
hmm
through journeying. When I wasn't journaling, I wasn't aware of it when it first started, even though I welcomed it and I sort of put it out saying, yeah, I'm ready for a big change. But the things were so small in the beginning, leading up to something big. And if you're not paying attention, you could miss the signs until all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's like, oh my God, look
Yeah.
what's going on now. So yeah, I'm gonna start doing that because there are definitely hints and signs if you're really working with tarot and really paying attention.
And it
Yeah.
also helps you to go deeper into the card. And,
Mm,
I have to say the people that have good intentions to start out and do a card of the day, great. I applaud you. That's wonderful. It's a great way to learn your cards. It's a great way to get your name out there as far as blogging right now. And it shows consistency. But you have to really develop that skill of writing. So you can't just, okay, I'm just going to put a card out there. Five of Swords. Oh, it means defeat. Okay, just there it is. Have a nice day. You have to eventually start taking that card and eating it. Just like in mediumship, they tell you when you receive the information from the spirit and you don't quite understand where it's going, you have to push it down and eat it and like mull over on it so that you can produce that, what the meaning is behind the symbol that they're giving you. The
yeah.
same thing with the cards. If you take the Five of Swords and you eat it and you push it down and you try to like work with it, you're going to understand that it doesn't mean defeat all the way. It could mean that one person's seeing defeat on one side when the other one's saying that they're winning. But in
Mhm.
reality, no one's really winning or losing. The Five of Swords is just that weird changing position of things. And you'll start to write with more meaning with that card. And I think people who see your opinion in that deep way will connect and say, oh, I never thought of it that way. And it's
Right.
like you're helping them more by going deeper into it instead of just putting a card up and saying, okay, here's what it means. Have a nice day. That's great. But, it'll also help you grow deeper with it.
I agree. It's that writing of the narrative. It's the narrative
Mm-hmm.
of what that card means. And even if it's just, your perspective of what the card means that day in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
you could pick up that card, the same card a week later, still get that defeat idea, but have a different perspective of what it means now in this moment for me at this time, and know
Yeah.
that, I mean, someone's going to resonate with you. There are so many people out there that someone, even if I read it and I'm like, it just doesn't pertain to me today, that's okay. Someone else is going to resonate, and it's going to help them too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So in your spell crafting, do you write spells for the card or with the cards, or how do you use the cards in spell crafting?
In spellcrafting, I usually, if I really want to connect and make something happen, I'll usually use the cards as representation. So if I need cups and chalice and things, and I don't want to bring all that stuff out, I'll use the aces as the cups, chalice, sword, and I don't know what
Pentacle.
the first one is. Pentacle. Yes. And then I'll use, the Empress and the Emperor as a Lord and Lady. I'll do the four corners so that they, have everything. And then I'll probably use a card as a representation of what I want. And then I'll do
Nice.
a spell that way. So that's like calling, the corners or, casting a circle. That's my way of connecting more to it. Sometimes I'll use the cards as, okay, I want something, so I'm gonna take, I want change, so I'm gonna take the devil or not the devil, death, and focus on that and do a spell with that. So it's just representing that change of happening. So I'll
Yeah.
use it that way. I'm more energetic. I
Yeah.
rarely use props anymore.
Yeah.
or symbolism of things. I rarely use that. Not that it's not bad. If you need it, then go for it. You know, some people need that connection to everything, but for me, I'm more energetic. So,
I like things. I don't necessarily like things. I like my tools. You know,
mm-hmm,
I like having my cauldron. I like looking at it. I
mm-hmm,
like my athame. I like my candles. I like my altar things. But I'm just imagining using the deck in the way that you described with the I had never considered that, probably because I like my cauldron. I like my pentacle kind of thing. Um, I'm going to set that out when we're done. You've given me so much to do today. I'm going to set it out and I'm going to like take a picture so I can look at it and think about that, because that would be great if I'm somewhere, because I would more likely have a deck of cards with me than all my
then the
tools,
items.
right? And I
Yes,
never like those little altar travel kits. I just don't like them.
me either.
They're not practical, but a deck of cards, putting it out like that, I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Yeah, and that I didn't. That's not my like. I didn't come up with that. That is from a
Oh,
book called, I believe, Portable Magic.
oh,
And he is. I think he was from the Dawn. What is that called? That sect.
mm, the Golden
Um,
Dawn.
yes, he's from that, and so he wrote that book. But he uses them in a different way. He he has you go into the cards. He has you form the circle while you're meditating, but the cards are still in front of you. Um, and he uses more imagery than he does the cards. You
Okay.
can lay them out. I think he has you lay them out in a circle. It was too ritualistic. I am
Right,
not a
right.
ritualistic person. And so when people try to tell me pomp and circumstance is needed, I usually am like, okay, that's fine for you, but I'm going to do my own thing. And
Hmm.
my own thing is not pomp and circumstance. I think as a witch, where if you're connected, you are connected.
Yeah.
If you're not, then maybe you need the pomp and circumstance to get you to be connected.
Hmm.
But the end goal is to be connected without having things.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes as a witch, you're not going to be someplace and hold on, let me get my candle and everything out, and then I'm going to come back to this and do what I need to
Right.
do. That's not how life works. Life is so fast now, and it's moving at a fast rate, that as witches, I think we need to evolve with the times, just like everything else.
Right. No, I agree.
But
I
yeah.
agree. It's almost like, you have your home. So my altar is home. But if I'm out shopping or I'm out somewhere else, there's a need for me to be able to do magic wherever I am
Mm-hmm.
without being home. I don't have to hurry up and go home to do it. If I'm standing in the middle of Target and
Yeah.
there's a need, I should be able to just do what I got to do without
Yes.
anything. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I must say I like my home, but there is after, I mean, and like you said, when you're new, if you're just starting out and just coming to recognize that you're a witch and understanding and learning, being home in a safe place or a familiar place when you're first starting out, it makes sense to me. It makes sense
Yes.
to me. Spellcrafting, for me, when I was using, I don't use tarot too much in spells anymore, but what I used to do is like candle magic with the spell. So like you had said, if there's something I want, I would find the card that would align with that, and then
Mm-hmm.
I would use a candle and I would place it on top of the card
Mm-hmm.
and use it sort of as my pentacle to
Yes.
manifest that. That's how I ended up doing it. And there was another thing is I used to take a image, not the actual card because I didn't want to burn my
I
card,
know that's all I.
but an image of it and then burn that with the candle.
Yeah.
But I've done that too. Because they worked the way that I did it. They were successful, but I
Yes.
don't tend to do it that way anymore. But as we evolve through our
Yeah.
magic and our spell working. So journeying and almost shadow working is similar, but
Mm-hmm.
as I'm looking through my notes, it's almost done in the same way, at least in my perspective, the way that you were describing the journeying. that's sort of how I work through my shadows when I'm using tarot. Do you do it any differently?
Nope, it's the same to me because as I've learned to write with the cards, I'm always in the light and in the dark.
Mhm.
So I'm going to write, okay, here's what it means if you're, working through positive things, and here's what it means if you're not recognizing that positive things. And so I think by learning both spectrums, like before, like I think what's your reading style that I did it, but I said that I don't read reversed. I read in spectrum. So when I'm doing the reading, I'm either going to be pushed towards the positive side or the negative side of the, and they're not negative. It's just the shadow side of the card.
Right.
Are you seeing your truth? Are you not seeing your truth? If the devil card's coming up, what's going on there? Is it the temptation part, or are you recognizing that you're being tempted in some way, or that you're being misled in some way? And do you need to return back to your own truth? So
Yeah, I agree. I mean, for me, I'm right with you when each card sort of has these very beneficial and very destructive sides to every single card in that deck, even the
yeah,
lovers. I
yes,
mean, there's both sides because, humans, we have both kind of traits. I look at the image and how it relates to the other images, and
mm-hmm.
it sort of reveals to me whether we're looking at, oh, this is really beneficial, or oh my God, are you sure you want to do
Yeah,
that? Be prepared, kind of thing.
yeah.
Um, so let me ask you this. I know this isn't on the little list of
That's okay.
questions I sent you, but so did you recognize yourself as witch before you were working with tarot or learned about the tarot, or did
Yes.
tarot come first? Which
No.
was it?
I recognize myself as a witch before I learned the tarot. I didn't receive my first tarot deck until I was 18, and I was already practicing witchcraft at 13.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And like I grew up knowing something was different. I grew up knowing that there was more than just what my religion, which was Catholicism. When I was growing up, I learned that I knew there was more than that. I knew that my grandmother was a witch, and it was hushed, but she did things, more of a curandera kind of way, like healing kind of way, and she had the saints and stuff. And but I knew there was something different, so I started my journey at 13 as witch, and then at 18 I got my first tarot deck from a fellow witch that I met, and she gave me that and my first crystal, which was a double terminated smoky quartz point kind of thing wand. And ever since then, I've been in love with tarot, and had many decks since then. But
So
yeah,
what was your first deck?
Hampton Roberts.
Okay. I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with that one, I don't think.
uh it's the, let's see, she also did the whimsical tarot.
Okay.
I forgot. Yeah. And so Hanson Roberts, the 1983 edition, like when they first were published, have the great cardstock, and I like the pictures. It's kind of, I would say cartoonish.
Oh,
It's
okay.
nice. Yeah, it's smaller. I like it because it's smaller. I don't, sometimes big decks I don't want to
Yeah.
carry around, but this one's a nice small one.
Now, did this witch that gave you the cards, did they teach you how to read, or how did you learn to read them?
She actually, it was like a crash course. She's like, cups mean this, and wands mean this, and da 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 da, and then major arcana, and that's it. That's all you really need to know right now. And then she sent me on my
Wow.
way. And then everything's just been by reading. Actually, everything's been by reading and just writing and evolving with the cards and coming up with my own way of learning them and understanding them. And I think it's a relationship, just like mediumship. You're building relationships with the dead. The cards are the same way. You're building that relationship with them.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, for me, building the relationship with your blade, building a relationship with your chalice, building a relationship with your altar. I
Yeah,
mean, if we really, as witches, honestly understand that everything is energy and everything is a part of everything else, then, you want to sort of build that resonance with all the things that you use, and it stores that energy and you're able to
yeah,
use it. And the cards, so much so, especially like you and I, if we see them as almost like gateways to get in touch with the spiritual realm. It sort of like opens up your mind to everything else that's available to us.
Yeah.
My first deck was that Egyptian deck. And it wasn't even Rider Waite based. It was so hard for me to read because it was like for the wands, it was the those crook things, and it was only
Yeah.
like if it was the three, it had three of them. I was like, what am I doing?
Huh.
But I read with that, and I guess for me that was a good way to begin
Hmm.
because that really gave you nothing except the
Yes.
major arcana gave me images, but the other ones really gave me nothing. Um, and I'm trying to remember. I took a class at a metaphysical shop, one class, and it was almost like you were saying, here's the major arcana,
Yeah.
and here's what the pips mean, and let's try to read for each other.
Yeah.
What?
Uh, yeah, and then nowadays, I don't knock it or anything, but I think it's a great way to open people up to tarot to say, I think this is the path I want to go on. But when they teach you intuition first, I kind of have an issue with it because people latch on to that intuition. And they're like, that's all I'm going to use and have a nice day. And in all honesty, I always tell people it's best for you to find your keywords for the cards. Like go through them, find your keywords, and I think Marcus Katz does that in all of his. But I never read his books; they're too long and too thick, and I can't do it. But he does do that. He does do the keywords for cards and things, and I think that's a wonderful idea because as you learn the keywords, you're also learning the card, and every time it comes up, you're going to be like, oh, that means that, that means that, that means that. So I believe in starting out with intuition, but eventually you are going to have to learn the cards. And that's where your work comes in. And people are either going to want to do the work or they're not going to do the work. And that's perfectly fine. But don't question our, I hate when they question our methods. And it's like, well, you didn't even take the time to do your groundwork, but you want to question what we do. And it's like, you can't do that. Sorry.
Oh, they can do that.
They
They're
can do
not
it,
going to get
but
a good
I
response.
know they're not going to like it. But
Yeah, I agree with you. When I was teaching, I had taught a tarot class. I'd have the students look through and look at each card, look at all the symbolism, look at, what does the red rose mean? What does the white lily mean? What does
mm-hmm.
the number mean? And like just kind of brainstorm and then get their keywords. I'd tell them, no more than three. And then we would
Yeah.
look at the traditional and say, oh, when I looked at the devil card, I said these three keywords. Well, what's the traditional? Oh, wait, we have a similar meaning,
Mm-hmm.
because then you can build on all that rich symbolism, but then still follow your intuition.
Yes.
I think that's the best way to read. Um, so in what way so let me ask you this. Do you have a matron and patron that you work with at this point?
I only have a matron, and that's Santísima Muerte, and I don't know what Hecate. I would
Oh,
say
okay.
Hecate. Death is more the what I work with. I don't know why. I just like that transformation and the decay, and not that I'm that dark. It's just I like the growth that comes afterwards because
Mhm.
we don't just die. We're reborn and renewed and everything.
So how does the goddess work with you or any other gods that you might work with? Not just because if you don't, I mean, some people have a matron and patron, but still work with other
Yeah.
gods. How do they work with you and the tarot? So if you're working with tarot, how do you find that the gods or deity works with you through that?
I've never thought of that. I don't know. I think it's weird. The goddess is always with me.
Mhm,
She's everything and everywhere.
mhm,
I think I'm more connected to the female part, but only because of my compassionate side, because of the way that I act with other people. I think the goddess is, I'm more familiar with her than I am the god.
mhm,
I think the god is too too much power for me. Like it's too rigid, and with the female, it's more fluid with
mhm.
me. So in tarot, I don't know. I I don't think I ever look at it that way. I just think that she's always around.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That's fair
I don't know.
too.
Yeah.
That's fair too. I mean, I don't mean to put you on the spot or
No,
anything.
no. I
I
just
mean,
never
because I
thought of
think,
that.
and I'm not even sure, because right now, because my practice has gone through such a transition. I have no matron and patron right now, and I'm working with more of the primordial forces of feminine and masculine. So they're very non-personal at this point, and just sort of primal energies that can
Yeah.
be overwhelming. So for me, even to try to answer that question, I couldn't come up with an answer either. But I think for me, this means that this is something I might want to look at. Like, because I agree with you. I feel like the spiritual realms are connected, and spirit, it sort of the tarot has its own spirit, its own energy, and it's connected to all other spiritual energies. I feel like these forces for me um, work with that, and
Yeah.
speak, not only speak with me directly, but when I'm in this conversation with the cards, they're sort of either guiding or aiding or clearing my mind so I can get a better understanding of what I'm seeing. But I think as witches, because we have such an intimate relationship with the spiritual realm, and if the cards are sort of an access to that, or aid us in sort of opening ourselves up even further, that the gods have some sort of influence either over us and or the cards, or one or the other, or
Yeah.
both. Or maybe if we're not listening and they're trying to help us, that then they'll speak through the cards if we're focused on that, try to get beyond that resistance we might have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And actually, that calls to mind when Isis was calling and I wasn't answering. Um, I had a reading, and the reader said, "Oh, Isis is your matron." No, she is not. No, she is not. Yes, she is. Sort of that kind of experience. Or if I was still with Isis, and working on that relationship, and she was trying to give me some sort of insight, and I don't want to hear it, don't want to hear it, that she would then blatantly give me the message in the cards, because what am I going to do, not look at the cards? You know what I
Yeah.
mean, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. um Let me check our time. Okay, we still have some time.
Mm.
Oh, so you talked about you use other divination tools, or is it just the cards? I know you said
Uh,
you're more connected to the cards, but
yes. Sometimes I'll use Oracle decks just to fiddle around with them and see what information I get. I think in the past I've said that I do a check and balance sometimes with readings. So I'll use tarot first, and then I'll use Oracle cards as a check and balance to see if the information still relates, or if I'm getting something different. I used to use crystals, like throwing the crystals for divination, but I don't click with them. Other people do. My friend does really well with throwing rocks and crystals, and she can interpret them. What else do I use? I don't use pendulums. I can't. I don't know. I can't use them. I don't use runes. It's not my calling. My husband uses runes. Um, I think it's more psychic, it's more mediumistic, and it's more tarot. Those are the three things that I really go for. So when I'm doing a reading, I'm blending tarot with psychic. So I'm getting information while I'm looking at the cards. Normally, I'll just read the cards first and then receive second. So the primary is my card, and then the secondary is the psychic side. It's
yeah.
never, if I'm going to do psychic, then I might as well just call myself a psychic and not a tarot reader.
Right,
So
right.
yeah. So if you're primary psychic and your secondary is tarot, you're most likely a psychic reader, and that's okay. That's fine. But a tarot reader to me is your primary is tarot and your secondary is psychic. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree 100%.
yes.
Have you ever, and I've considered this more recently, have you ever thought of reading bones, or throwing bones and reading bones?
I am so interested in
Me
that.
too.
Catherine Ironwood from Lucky Mojo, she has a set that you can buy along with her
Oh,
book. And it's really cheap. It's like $20, but she starts you out with the set. So she puts the bones together, and then she has her book of bone reading, and she's really good. Like that's where I learned hoodoo from,
oh,
and she
really?
has a good book on hoodoo. On hoodoo, she goes into, she studied the beliefs, she studied why they did certain things, and that's the kind of information that I like. If you're paying for information, the more the better. And if they go into why things were done, you'll understand, oh, okay, I get that, because I think one of the things that you brought up in the Facebook page, where they said that eclectic witchcraft was a bunch of bullshit and stuff like that. And so when I responded with, what do you think fucking witchcraft was before? It wasn't pomp and circumstance. They didn't come up with that shit till later on. Like, it was about connecting and hoping and praying that God was going to listen to you, and you did the right things to make it happen.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So you said Lucky Mojo for the bones?
Yes, Lucky Mojo.
I'm gonna go right
You
over
should go
there
check
when
it
we're
out.
done. Because I am like that sort of, again, this primal energy that's like surrounding me, and I'm getting deep and dirty.
Yeah.
I'm going from being very traditional, like Wicca, that the ritualistic thing, to something more primal. And
Yes.
that's a really big turnaround for me. I tell you, it's freaking scary as shit. But I'm growing as an
Yes.
individual and as a witch, and bones are becoming a major, bones, feathers, rocks, not crystals, not pretty, but rocks
Rocks.
and
Yeah.
sticks and like that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna check that out when we're done.
Yeah.
Um, divination. Oh, for me, other divination tools. I use oracle cards too. I've used a pendulum, but not for divination. I have witches runes. I like those. Those still resonate because they're very intuitive. It's just the symbols, 13 symbols.
Yeah.
I like them. I should pull them out more frequently too. My crystal ball. Do you do things like that where it's really just the energy, like that,
Um,
mirrors or things like that?
I used to. I used to. I have crystal balls. I used to use the black mirror, but then I didn't. I stopped using that. I really don't. I like messing around with them, but
Yeah,
it's not something that I do on a
on the
regular.
regular. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I tend to use my black mirror for personal, for me. I mean, when I'm reading, eh, but then I know what you mean though. It's like when I'm reading and I just need it. I need the information.
Yeah.
I just need it and I need it now. I know it's that's the first thing. Just pull them cards out because it's bam, it's right there, at
Yeah.
least for me. So like Oracle, and I think we already sort of touched on these different things. Like we both use Oracle cards, so I'll use that as an example. But we are kind of already talked about how reading with Oracle is different than reading with tarot. But I
Yes.
guess we can get into a little more detail. How are they the similar, and how are they different? I know we kind of. I don't want to beat the topic, but I maybe like just sort of like listing the
Yeah.
differences and the similarities.
I think with Oracle, you're using more of your psychic ability. So it would be the psychic is your primary, and then the Oracle is your secondary,
Oh, okay.
because it's only giving you hints. It's more of an open lead. So like if you're an investigator and you're going and there's a clue, and it's neither black nor white. So you're going with a hint or an intuition of, I think this is what could have happened. Whereas tarot would be the blade with the blood on it, and then it would have the DNA. And so that
Right.
would be tarot for me. Like, it's solidified evidence that this is what it means, and that's what it is they murdered this person. Whereas the oracle deck would be a clue to who it could have been, and you're trying to find out where it's going. So you're using your psychic as primary and the oracle as secondary.
I love that analogy you used. I love it. I love it.
I had to go with the murder, but
I like that though. I mean, that it's true, because I've always, when I had people come for readings and they pick the oracle, but they have a very specific question, and they're like, can you use the oracle? But I want to know XYZ. And I'm like, I'd rather use tarot for this. If you just want sort of a general overview, if you want general guidance, general insight to, you know, take their specific question and kind of branch it out to work. If you just want general information about your career and your job right now and just insight as to what's going on, then let's use oracle. But if you want to know if you should quit and get another job, let's go with tarot, because I can get more specific for you. And that's exactly what that is. I like your analogy. That really makes sense to me. And I think, you know, going back to how we began the conversation, is because tarot has such specific symbolism, and it has such specific voice, that specific voice, where oracle is almost like talking to a group of people. Yes. And tarot's talking to that one best friend. Yeah. I like those analogies. Oh, I'm so glad we're talking this morning. Tonight. If you're reading, if you're watching this, it's tonight. But he and I, it's a Tuesday morning.
It's odd. It's so odd.
Isn't it? It's a Tuesday morning.
It always happened on some weird Tuesday morning.
Yeah, it's Tuesday morning, still in August, and you're going to watch it September in the evening on a Friday night. A whole bunch of weeks in between. So much is going to have, I probably already have a blog up, like, you know, I probably already have a blog up about it at this point. Right. Yeah. We have about what, 5 minutes left. I don't want you to be late for work.
Oh, it's okay. Hey, we're fine. We can go the full.
Okay. Yeah. I forgot to set, because we're starting at a weird time. It's not even on the top of the hour or a half hour. Yeah. And I'm like, oh no, I didn't set my timer. I don't want to go over an hour anyway. Okay. When reading the cards for others, do you believe that being a witch? Oh yeah. So being a witch, when you're reading for others, and so if you were just a psychic and not a witch, do you think the reading you would give someone might be different, or would be different than being a witch and reading? Do you think that role shifts the dynamic or the energy of a reading?
Yes, because being a witch, I have gone through more of my shadow stuff, and I've gone through more of experience and trial and error, that when it comes to the reading, I have more information to give on top of that. My advice is, you can, but here's what's going to happen, and here's the possibilities. Are you prepared to own that? You know, whereas if I was just psychic, I would most likely still be on my spiritual path. I'd most likely only be touching the surface of things, depending on how far I wanted to go. I think with witchcraft, it deepens, it makes you harder. You go through more stuff because you're dabbling in the shadow and in the light. And that's okay. I always tell people when they come to me, students and stuff, they'll say, well, I want to learn how to curse. Great. Learn how to curse. It's up to you. That's your ethics. You can learn it, you can do it, and that's fine. But you have to be prepared for what comes with it. And if you're prepared, you'll learn, oh, I shouldn't have done that, you know, because in the end, it's all about compassion. It's all about forgiveness. It's all about understanding, because you want the same to be given to you as a person as well. And so, yeah, so I think that the readings are deeper, and the advice is more down to earth, and with witchcraft.
I agree so much. And I've had an experience recently. So many of you may know, and if you don't know, if this is the first video you ever watch on my channel, I recently moved from the East Coast, Massachusetts, to the West Coast, Washington State. I'm in Seattle. So the difference, very open-minded individuals here in Seattle, Washington. that I've experienced. And going from Massachusetts, where there was a lot of Christian individuals, and there were a lot of witches too, because I wasn't that far from Salem when I was living there. People were still very liberal and open, but there was like an underlying Christian. So if they saw my Baphomet, they would think the devil. Okay. Come out here, and I've had many people walk in my home and not know that the Baphomet even had a negative connotation. I had someone tell me they thought they thought I was a fan of heavy metal. So it's very different. But there's a lot of new age thinking that I've come across, a lot of new age spirituality. And that's okay. That's great. You're open to the idea of manifestation, law of attraction, but also love and light. Mm-hmm. A lot of light, which is fine, but shying away from the darkness. There's still they're worried about curses. They're worried about black magic. Yeah. They're worried about that kind of thing. And me, I embrace both, right? I can definitely get with you with the new age thinking and manifestation and healing light, but not at the expense of repressing or hiding the darkness either. Yeah. That there is benefit in that darkness. There's benefit in the going within and the introspection and the delving into the depths of the underworld to reemerge a new self. So being a witch and getting a reading from someone who is just new age, psychic, awakening, enlightening, love and light, all that, and not seeing the darkness for the benefit that it has, I feel can be just as harmful as someone just living in the darkness and cursing and anger. And there's that lack of balance there. And I think, as you said, being a witch, giving a reading, we will give you both sides. So if you don't want to hear about the bad stuff, don't come to me then, because you're going to get everything.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that we're going to sit there and tell you, oh, your grandfather's going to die, blah, blah, blah. It's none of that. It's just, we're going to give it to you for real. And with other people, they want to teach you the tools to be positive and manifest and be wonderful and great and live this wonderful, beautiful life. But what you don't understand is that they also have their struggles as well. They also curse in the bedroom. They also, cursing bad words. They also may think bad thoughts about other people. They have their own struggles. But I think putting that into a reading and saying, hey, I've been there. I still do it sometimes. It's just my struggle is easier than what it used to be. And you could be there too if you think this way and do the work. Yeah. Telling them that it's okay to feel that way. Like I tell people all the time, if you feel like you need to go out because you're pissed and shake your fist at God or the gods or whatever and curse them and tell them to shut the fuck up and stuff like that, do it. But understand that by doing that, you need to let that go as well. That anger has no other form that needs to be in your life, but by doing it and letting it go and saying, okay, I'm ready to move on, because the spirits and the gods and goddesses will push you in the direction that you need to go. And it's when we resist that we get irritated, that we get confused, that we get pissed off. But by letting go of all that and then saying, okay, I'm ready, let's go, it'll be much faster journey.
I agree.
To take over.
I agree. Finding that, I mean, we're human beings. We're living in a physical world with true, real emotions in a physical body. So there's this big spectrum between hate and love and everything in between. And it's messy and it can get difficult, and there's pain and there's joy. It's the whole thing. I think as witches, we understand that, and we don't look at anything as, no, you can't. I believe as witches, we look at the limitless possibilities that we have, and we accept everything, and we delve into that nastiness, but we also bathe in the light. You know, we have our rituals in the moon, but we celebrate the sun, the days as well. So getting a reading, you're going to get all of it. And you'll ideally, from someone who's a good reader or an effective reader, they'll give you ideas and tools and advice on how to navigate through everything, you know, give you advice. And being a witch, I think you get a different perspective. You get a different reading than you would just a psychic or something else, you know, whatever else that's out there doing readings. That was my beep.
And I think as a witch, you know, when I was younger, I thought I want to be like Charmed. I want to be like the Craft. I want to do this and throw fucking fireballs and shit like that. And in all honesty, a good witch is a witch who can walk into a room and transmute the energy that's there to mirror how they're feeling, which is, you know, if they're feeling positive, they'll like, I think it was the Miss of Avalon. They described one of the main characters, how she was small in nature, but when she took on the energy of the goddess, she looked tall. And that's what a good witch is, one that'll come in and be like, I am here. This is my power. You conform to what I want. You know, you're going to be positive. You're going to be wonderful and great. And I'm going to transmute the energy around me to mirror who I am. And I am awesome and great. So,
yeah. And that it's so synchronistic that you talk about it, because that exact sort of thing. I'm reading this book by Paulo Coelho, The Witch of Portobello. I'm reading this right now. And he talks about this woman who does that. You know, as soon as she walks in the room, you can tell that she's sort of shifted the energies of that room. And people, when they're around her, they see her. And they don't recognize her, but they know that there's something different because of how she affects the energy. And she doesn't, you know, like go in and like do obvious things. It's just how she is embracing her own energy and being authentic and true to herself. And I think that's the idea of being a witch. And when you're communing with the cards, when you're reading the cards, when you're listening to the cards, and having a session with the cards, you are being true to yourself, which is reflected and you're able to clearly see. I think. Was there anything else that you wanted to share before we wrap it up?
No, we talked about great subjects here.
We did. I think so. Yeah.
Either people are going to like it.
Aaron is going to read. Huh?
I said either people are going to like it or they're going to hate it. And
whatever. It is what it is, you know, it is what it is. Aaron's going to be back in a few weeks. Our official start date for the live episodes of Wyrds, Witches, Witchcraft is October 26th. That's when my new co-host Obsidian Fire and you'll be watching our first live stream. But the week prior, we're going to do a special episode, Aaron and I, on October 19th, Friday, October 19th at 8:30 Pacific Standard Time. Almost said Eastern. No, it's Pacific. We're going to do some readings like we did on Wine Witches Witchcraft with Renee. Aaron and I are going to be doing live readings with you guys. So mark that on your calendar and tune in. You'll see the event. I'll share it on my Facebook page. And we look forward to having that live stream with you guys. That's going to be fun. Yeah, it is. So make sure you're in that live chat. So yeah, that's it for this morning, whatever time date you're watching this. And we'll see you next time. Love you. Blessed be.
Bye.
Bye.